This is Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights. Hieronymus Bosch is an early Netherlandish painter from the 15th and 16th century, and he is known for his crazy detail and bizarre imagery, and the Garden of Earthly Delights is no exception. This piece is simply chaotic, with 3 inner panels full of incredible detail and vibrant colors, and when closed, a contrasting exterior painted in a dull green and gray grisaille. For years, art historians, scholars, and professors alike have argued back and forth about what this painting represents. Is it strictly religious, mankind's corruption, or is it simply immoral? While obviously there is visible imagery depicting religious aspects, like Christ with Adam and Eve on each of his sides. And at first glance, that's what it looks like. It looks like a religious painting. With its triptych format, although its inappropriate content, this painting was not meant for a religious setting. When you first look at this painting, you can see Jesus Christ, Adam, Eve, and maybe their children frolicking around in the middle, and a hell scene at the very right. But this is what anyone can see at first glance. But what more is there? What's the deeper meaning? Beneath all that colorful chaos is corruption by sin. And the first panel at the left is a scene that represents the creation of life. It starts with God having created Adam and Eve at the forefront of this first panel. Upwards of this first panel is a pink fountain in the center, with pink being a color of divinity, as God is also shown in this color. This fountain can represent a fountain of life, not only because of its color, but also because it provides for the many creatures that are around it. And taking an overall look at the painting, we can see it is all very vibrant aside from the dark right panel, and the only other dark area of this entire painting is the little pond at the bottom of the left panel. As its placement is here in the first panel, with the creation of life, the contrasting dark pool can symbolize the imminent fall to sin that is depicted in the center panel and more so in the right. Moving to the middle panel, this is where the name Garden of Earthly Delights is derived from, the hectic garden scene in the center. There is just so much going on in this image. Many art historians believe this to show Adam and Eve's children frolicking around in a garden. However, along with the many symbols that represent otherwise, I believe that the center panel is more of a corruption of innocence, a fall to sin. Here, we can see every figure is lacking any form of clothing, and all seem to display innocence and pureness, contrasting to their fall to temptation. Amongst the many figures, we can see hollow fruits as well as fruit peelings, which are representations of worthlessness and the fruit that brought the fall of Adam. The contrast between the innocence of the figures and the fruits that represent sin symbolize the corruption of their innocence. Towards the middle of the center panel, we see a circle of naked male figures riding various animals of shapes and sizes around a small pond of naked women. By this, Bosch meant to represent the lust and sexual attraction between men and women. Moving up the center panel is a great fountain, which can represent the fountain of youth, a popular myth during this time period and also a popular subject in Renaissance art, like in Lucas Cranach the Elder's Fountain of Youth. In the very right panel, we have a scene of hell. This scene is dark with deep colors, and it's a brilliant contrast from the previous 2 vibrant panels. The brightest portion of this panel is at the bottom, and it stands out as the forefront of the scene. Here we see a disturbing and bizarre punishment of several figures, as well as other parts of the panel where there are other weird forms of punishment. Bosch was known for crazy scenes of hellfire, and this is no exception. And as there is no clear representation of a heaven scene, but only that of hell, it's because of the sin committed by those of the previous panel that led to their damnation. And lastly, outside of all this colorful chaos, is this dull exterior. When the panels are closed, what we see is a hollow globe, Earth. Some think this is meant to represent day 3 of God's creation of the world, the flood that was sent to cleanse the earth. Some interpret the exterior to be either the beginning of the entire piece or its end. I think that this exterior is the end scene of everything. During this time period when this work was created, many people feared an apocalypse, an end of the world. And this scene here of an empty, hollow, and lifeless world, with the godlike figure in the upper left-hand corner, is a clear representation of a world's end. This entire piece has a clear progression through the 3 panels from left to right, starting with the creation of life in the left, the corruption of sin brought upon by Adam and Eve in the middle, and the imminent damnation in hell in the very right. From the left panel to the center to the right and finally the exterior is a progression of sin.